Sometimes you pick up a plant that you're really excited about, and it just doesn't pan out the way you had hoped. And other times you pick up a Hoya that you're not really thrilled with, and it turns into a favorite plant. So join me with a tasty beverage of your choice close to hand while we take a look at 6 Hoyas I've changed my mind about. And a thank you to those people who took the time to respond to last week's question. And even those of you who didn't respond directly to the invitation but had a comment anyway. I always love reading your comments. We didn't have too many takers on the trade offer, but that's okay. It was worth a try. I may try it again in 6 months or so. A lot of people felt they didn't have anything special to offer, but remember, there's always folks out there who are looking for what you have, so be kinder to yourselves. But thank you for joining in. And the Seeds Project. There's nothing new to report on with the Hoya maniparensis. They're just going along doing their thing. But the lithops seeds, and these are lithops, what is it? Let me read it correctly. Lithops pulviceps variety lactuneae. And they're doing rather well, coming along. These was some of my first attempts, so I just kind of scattered the seeds. And despite that, they're doing well. I also when was it, on the 9th, planted some Conophytum van Herdii, and I very specifically, I don't want to dump this, planted them individual seeds rather than scattering them. And so I did a pattern so I could keep track of where they are, and they have started to sprout after, 6 days, 7 days? So that's really cool. The other thing that's neat is one of my mesems, and this is Pleiospilos nelii, royal flush, has started blooming. And it's a really pretty little plant. Let's see if I can show the bloom without dumping it. It's not quite open yet, but that's very neat. I'm getting into these little tiny plants. They're just kind of fun. This is I think it's a 2-inch pot, might be a 3-inch pot. They sell these by height. So it's 3-inch or 7.5 centimeter. They sell these by height. So these are very, very cool. They don't take up much space. I have them in my southeast, southwest, and west-facing windows, and they seem to be enjoying that. I'll have to do a video about mesems in the near future with more information and show you the different kinds I have. But yeah, this has been cool. And the first one up today is this Hoya globulosa. Now, Hoya globulosa is native to Bangladesh, to south central and southeast China, Yunnan to Guangdong and Hainan Island, Assam and the West Himalayas in India, to Laos, Nicobar Islands, and Vietnam. And it was first published in 1882 in Gardner's Chronicle by Joseph Dalton Hooker. And this plant is just beautiful, beautiful leaves. Just gorgeous. And they're fuzzy on the top and the underside. There's a little bit on the top, but the underside is like velvet. That's the first time you feel it, you're going to be hooked on this. So I got this plant almost 3 years ago, and it did okay. It put out some nice leaves on the lower vines and grew fairly well, and then it kind of slowed down. I had it in a bark and sphagnum mixture in a net pot with a cover pot, and I think that That bark and sphagnum mixture did not hold enough moisture for the size of plant this was becoming. So when it started slowing down and acting a little pokey, I got a little disappointed. I wasn't as interested. It wasn't doing as well. And then I noticed that it was really sucking up the moisture. The leaves are a little succulent. The vines are a little succulent. But a plant like this is going to want a lot of moisture to sustain that kind of foliar growth. And for some reason, it just wasn't getting it. Well, for some reason, one reason. So a few months ago, maybe 6 months, I moved it into a self-watering pot and pond. And it has apparently found the reservoir and has been growing great guns. This, from here, all that is new growth in the past month or two. It's just shot out. It's been amazing, just amazing. So yeah, this one's back on my like it list. My only concern now is this has turned into a really vigorous grower, and it's not a fine, delicate vine. It's a kind of chunky thing. So I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to do with this. Because, I mean, the leaves are gorgeous. There's no two ways about that. Absolutely stunningly beautiful. But this part of it had already grown up into the shelf above it, and so I had to like weave it backwards out of that. We'll have to see what happens to this. But yeah, this has turned into a favorite plant. I really like it now, mainly because of those leaves, because what's not to like about that? It's usually easy to find. The only thing to keep in mind is it's a thirsty little puppy. So keep an eye on that, and it should do really well for you. This one came from Plants Wake You Up, and this is Hoya globulosa. And the next one up lives back over here. You've seen him in the background several times. And this is my Hoya nummularioides. Now, nummularioides is native to Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam, and was first published in 1912 in Flora Générale de l'Indochine by Julien Noël Constantin. And the remarks on the herbarium sheet say Cambodia, Laos. So that's where I would assume he found it. I found it down at Peckham's in Little Compton, Rhode Island. And it was in with a group of little carnosa starts. And I immediately recognized that the leaves on this plant did not look like the ones it was next to. And I recognized it as a Hoya, mainly because it was grouped with the other Hoyas, and it was sort of early in my Hoya career, so because I figured it was a Hoya, I just bought it. I took it up to the front counter and asked the lady if she could scan the barcode and tell me what this plant was. So she did that, and she said, it's a Hoya nu, and I went, nummularioides, and she said, yep, that's it. So I brought it home. I think I have pictures of when it first got here. And although some might say it's plain, I would not be one of those people. I really like this Hoya. The leaves are pubescent, meaning they're fuzzy on the top and bottom, although you can't necessarily see that from just looking at it. And it took this one a little bit of time to get settled in. I originally had it in bark and stag, as you saw in that photo of when it arrived. And it did fine, but again, it was not a steady enough supply of moisture. So after a while, I moved it into a nice self-watering pot. And once it recovered from its move, it has started growing. It's not a rampant grower, but it's been a good grower. And I love the color of the leaves. I just think, I know they're plain, but I just think that's really pretty. You know? They're just, I mean, if everything in your collection is variegated, then nothing stands out, so you need a mix. But it's done very, very well. It has bloomed for me, and I'll put pictures up over here, and the blooms are very pretty. I don't remember what the scent is, but that's okay. I don't know what that is. Let's get rid of that. So it's some kind of something, but it's not a pest or disease, so yes. Yeah, this has been a good grower. I changed my mind about this. I bought it reluctantly because it was a Hoya, and as it has grown, it has really grown on me. It's now a favorite. It seems to like slightly lower light because it's doing well back over here. When I had it under brighter light, it did not seem, it's not its favorite. So slightly lower light. But it's done really well. It's done really well. Again, this one came from Peckham's Nursery in Little Compton, Rhode Island, and this is Hoya nummularioides. The next one I've changed my mind about. It's Hoya Sunrise. And back at the time when we were all locked in our houses and wearing masks, this was like one of the hot plants. Not terribly expensive, not terribly difficult to find, but everybody raved about the sun stressing. Now, Hoya Sunrise is a hybrid of Hoya lacunosa subspecies pallidiflora and Hoya obscura, and it was released, published, developed in 1992 by Michael Miyashiro in Hawaii. He's the one who also brought us Hoya kaimuki. And this one, everyone loved this one because of, where are they? The sun stressing on the leaves. That was the rage about Hoya Sunrise, that it sun stressed beautifully and the leaves turned a beautiful red color. And, you know, I've made how I feel about that fairly clear. And actually on this one, I don't mind a little bit of the sun stress. I think that is a really beautiful leaf with just a little bit. I picked this up on a trip to Logie's in Connecticut. You know, I'm in Rhode Island, so Logie's is just like, you know, a half-hour drive away. And I'm compelled to go there at least twice a year. So yeah, but on one of those trips, it was probably in the middle of winter. It was there and I saw it and I thought, you know, let's go see what all the hype is about. So I brought it home and it was in probably a peaty, perlite-y mix. And it was fairly happy, it was okay. I moved it to pond and self-watering, a comparable sized pot. And it didn't do anything for a really long time. It was not entirely thrilled with me. But then I'm accustomed to that with my Hoyas, so, you know. So I didn't pay it any mind and just kept watering it. And it was like, okay, it's there, I'm not thrilled, you know, meh. And then it started growing and it started doing really well. And I changed my mind about the plant. And I learned that, I do like a little bit of that sun stressing. And it started giving me stuff like, let's see if I can get in there and show this, but there's a beautiful new set of leaves in there and some new growth. And there's new vines here and over here. And so, yeah, I've changed my mind about Hoya Sunrise. It needs to be repotted. I'm sure it needs to be repotted. Well, something, oddly enough, the roots are just beginning to come through the bottom of the pot. Just beginning to come through. And it's been here for a year and a half, pretty much. So there's not a lot of roots supporting this foliar mass. But I have a feeling it's still time to repot it. My dilemma is up or down. And I'd be curious to hear what y'all have to think about this. I don't have a lot of space for many more trailing plants. And I just got a new one that I think I want to have trail. So, yeah, if you have Hoya Sunrise, do you grow it up or do you trail it? I can see it being really pretty either way. It's definitely going to need a bigger pot and an optimistic trellis if it goes up. I don't know. This one came from Logis in Connecticut, and this is Hoya Sunrise, and yeah, it's now on my thumbs up list. And the next one on my plants I've changed my mind about list is Hoya Iris Marie. Now, Hoya Iris Marie is a hybrid of Hoya Schnee, Schnee, so Schnee, and Hoya Kembra. And it was named after Iris Marie Little, the spouse of David Little, and David and Iris Marie were big-time Hoya discoverers and collectors and sellers in Australia. And this plant, you have heard me disparage much in the last few months. And this is all that's left, this, after I took 5 to 6 feet off the end of that vine. The leaves are nice enough. It's a thin-leafed Hoya. Try not to bang it into the lights. Let's see if this will, down here. It's a thin-leafed Hoya. The leaves are rather nondescript. They're firm. The stalk is woody, so I would guess that it is not a terribly succulent plant. For me, this one grows like a monster. I mean, literally, it started, I know you can't see it, but it lives down here, and it had grown up along the wall. It had somewhat attached itself to the wall, over into the next set of grow shelves and up through them, and was heading up the other wall of the house, or the room in the house. You know what I mean. And it never bloomed. So I've cut it a couple of times. It roots like a dream. I've got some cuttings up here that you've seen. But this one just, I don't know. From what I've been able to find out, it's a good grower. It doesn't necessarily bloom very quickly, and I can attest to that. I think I may end up cutting it way back and seeing if I can turn it into something a bit more shrub-like. I'm just not sure. And I'm a little frustrated with it in that it's just, it's just meh. The leaves aren't interesting enough. I haven't seen blooms. I've seen pictures of the blooms. They're very pretty, and they're the kind of blooms that I really like. But it's just a big old vining thing, and so far it hasn't given me any reason to recommend it other than it grows like crazy, which is normally a good thing, but I don't know. So I'm thinking of, as I said, cutting it back, taking it off the trellis, and maybe surrounding it in, maybe putting the optimistic trellis around the outside, letting the leaves come through, and just supporting it in some kind of columnar bushy thing. I don't know. I'm just not. So right now it's on my list. It's a pretty enough plant. It grows well enough. It's not terribly expensive. It's fairly easy to find. Logi's always has them. But yeah, it's boring. It's boring. What are some of the, I got Hoya odorata down here, and you've seen that. And it's similar, but at least that one's interesting at this point. Iris Marie just is not cutting it for me, so we're going to do something about that. I just haven't decided what yet. Anyway, this one came from Logi's in Connecticut, and this is Hoya Iris Marie. And this next one is a surprise to me, and will probably be a surprise to some of you who've watched for a long time. Hoya carnosa compacta, and it's on my thumbs up list now. I hated this plant for a long time. It was everybody's favorite. Everybody raved about it. Everybody wanted to get it. It's so cool. The leaves are so funky, and I wasn't buying any of that hype. Number one, it is a carnosa, and I'm good with carnosas, but I didn't need any more. And I heard it was a slow grower, and I heard everybody refer to it as a mealybug magnet, a pest magnet. And so I just didn't want to get involved with that. But after hearing it for so long, I figured I needed to give it a try and see what my opinion of it was. So I found a nice little one. And it's been here about 6 months. And this is all new growth. And this is all new growth. And this is all new growth. And yeah, so it's on my thumbs up list. Now, Hoya carnosa itself is native to South Central and Southeast China, Hainan Island, Japan, the Nansei Shoto, Laos, and Taiwan. And it was developed, it's not a natural occurring thing, by irradiating rooted cuttings with X-rays and or gamma rays. And that produced these funky, essentially deformed leaves, which you either like or you don't. People, there's like, it's one way or the other. There's no middle ground on this one. So it's been here 6 months. There's a lot of new growth. So the whole slow growing thing is not true. And it's been here 6 months, and so far, no mealies and no other pests. So that other part is not necessarily true. I think the mealybug issue comes from the shape of the leaves, that it's really easy for mealybugs to hide in them, difficult for us to see them, and you may not see them until it's like a full-blown infestation and you have no choice but to pitch the plant. I have not run into that yet. And I'm starting to really like it. I really am. I know. But 6 months, it has found, I don't know if you can see that, it has found the reservoir. Oops. Come on, let's get back in there. Don't argue with me. All right. It has found the reservoir. I think that's in part responsible for this new growth. This is the outer variegated variety. There's an inner variegated variety too, and the solid green one. And I actually bought one of the solid green ones to use in a video about moving plants to pond, which has been posted, and it's up there. You can find it. It's a brilliant study and a wonderful demonstration, and everybody should watch it once or twice. But yeah, one of the Hoyas I thought I would never, ever grow is growing on me. So if you don't like it, don't buy it. If you do like it, I'm one of you now. And if you're thinking about it, yes, if you're intrigued, if you think this is going to work for you, then yeah. I didn't buy mine at a big box store. So that may help with the lack of mealybugs, that it was grown in with a smaller grower, and they kept a closer eye on it. I can't say that for certain, but no pests so far. So yeah, this one came from Wishlist Foliage Plant on Etsy. And this is Hoya carnosa compacta, outer variegated. Hoya incrassata moon shadow. No, Eclipse. I have moon shadow. It's a different plant. This is Hoya incrassata Eclipse. Now, Hoya incrassata is native to the Philippines. It was first published in 1904-1905 in Fragmenta Florae Philippinae by Otto Warburg. And I bought this because of the foliage. I mean, that's really, really pretty. That's really, really pretty. The leaves are kind of funky. They remind me a bit of Hoya dakeae, or dakeae, whichever. They are firm. They're like plastic. They're not, there's no give. Well, there's a little bit of give, but, don't try that stupid taco test on this plant. So when I first got this, there were 3 cuttings in the pot, and one of the cuttings didn't make it. Of the 2 that remained, one of them pouted consistently. The leaves, it wasn't, it's gotten really large. Sorry. If it's not getting the moisture it wants, the leaves will pucker and shrivel and not look happy. You'll know, but at that point it's make or break, life or death. Don't let it get to that point. Don't let your Hoyas dry out don't get me started on the taco test. Anyway, So one of the rooted cuttings took off like a rocket, did really, really well, happy grow, going right along. The other one looked like it was on death's door for a very long time. And I think it finally pushed out enough of a root system to take advantage of the self-watering pot. Let's see what's going on in here. Well, yeah, there's some roots coming through. And it's enough, apparently, for this plant because it has pushed out a lot of new growth. There's new leaf coming in here on this vine. This is sort of new growth. There's a new leaf coming in down here from the base. I don't know if I'll be able to show that, but the colors are kind of wild. You know, baby Hoya leaves are amazing creations. The variegation seems to be fairly stable. Sometimes with incrassata, I am told that the variegation was developed through the use of X-rays or gamma rays, or sometimes a poison, and I can't remember what the name of it is, to create these effects. I'd like to think that's not always the case, but you know, people will do what they need to do to sell some plants. So yeah, this has been, do I mess with this now? No, I don't. This has been a really good grower. I think it's a beautiful plant. I just love the variegation, whether it's pronounced or like this leaf, not very bold. It's turned out to be a neat plant. Yeah, so it was on my list briefly, and then on my good list briefly, and then off the good list for a while. And then once it's settled in, it's turned into something really pretty. So it's back on my good list. It got back on my good list enough that I ordered one that has inner variegation. How's that kid doing? Oh, he's pushing out a new leaf. Sadly, it's solid green. So we'll keep our fingers crossed to see what happens with that one. He lives down there, of course. Otherwise, I was just talking to the floor. But yeah, this one, having been on my I wouldn't recommend it list, is now on the, like, okay, I'm happy. I like this one now. This one came from Plants Wake You Up, and this is Hoya incrassata Eclipse. The question for the comments this week is, what plant, doesn't necessarily have to be a Hoya, but it does seem part of the reason we're all here, what plant have you changed your mind about? And it can be up or down. I just talked about Hoyas, but there's some other plants. You know, well, everybody loves calatheas, but I'm not going there. Sorry, Dave, but you know, I'm not going there. Ferns, I love ferns. I think they're wonderful. There's so many fern carcasses in my yard that it's not even funny, so I don't do ferns anymore. I still love them. So yeah, what plants have you changed your mind about, up or down? And let's see what discussion that prompts. And as always, I want to thank you for choosing to spend a little bit of your time with me this week's end. Please remember to click the thumbs up like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell. They're really important to helping my channel grow. A lot of the products that you've seen me use are available through my Amazon storefront. I receive a small commission on the sales from the storefront, but it doesn't affect your price at all. If you'd like to support the channel, there's a link in the description to my Buy Me a Coffee page, or you can click on the thanks button down here, and YouTube handles all the stuff through the thanks button. Links to a couple more videos over on this side, and enjoy the rest of your week's end. And thank you all very much for the kind anniversary wishes.